Good afternoon. Thank you everyone for listening. Welcome to today's episode of 15 with the Team, a live series where the Office of the Student Advocate discusses common topics within the DC education system to help you become better informed and empowered in less than 15 minutes. My name is Philip Copeland, and I am an advocate with the Office of the Student Advocate. Today, we will be joined by Principal Nia White to discuss student safety and safe passage. For too long, our students and families were left to deal with the fallout of community violence affecting students on their journey to or from school. In 2017, our office, along with students, school leaders, families, government agencies, and community-based organizations, started to have discussions around creating solutions to protect students on their paths to and from school. Those conversations helped inform and shape our current citywide efforts to support student safety while traveling, often referred to as Safe Passage. But before DC Safe Passage program blossomed into what it is today, many school leaders within the district stepped up to create much needed solutions. An example of this leadership can be found in the Congress Heights community of Ward 8, where a principal has organized their school staff and community volunteers to walk with students along their paths home. This collaborative effort was spearheaded by Principal Nia White. Principal White currently serves the students and families of Center City Public Charter School located in Congress Heights. Not only has she been an active voice in community conversations related to student safety, she has led impactful initiatives to ensure the safety of her students traveling to or from school. I guess before I go into more detail, thank you, Principal White, for joining us today. If you don't mind, could you please introduce yourself and highlight some of the work that you all have been doing this school year?
Yes, thank you. So honor and privilege to be here. As you said, my name is Nia White, and I'm the principal for the Congress Heights campus of Center City Public Charter Schools. We are a network of 6 schools, and for this is year 11 that I've been honored to be able to serve my folks and families for this particular building.
Definitely appreciate the work you all are doing. Definitely have seen your campus pop up in a couple news articles for great accomplishments. We won't dive too deeply into that right now. Okay. I guess the purpose of this conversation is more focused on student safety. And I know you all do immense work, with your students traveling to or from school. If you don't mind, could you highlight some obstacles that some of your students have faced while they travel to and from school?
I would say even before we got started with some of our safe passage work, a lot of our students were getting kind of entangled in we're surrounded by a lot of schools, a lot of schools that have a lot older students. And there were some, whether it was class building or neighborhood beefs that our students were finding themselves in the middle of, in some instances even being trampled in like their fights. And we would just, as parents were letting us know, as we were hearing and seeing these stories of events, we figured out we came together to figure out what we could do to further ensure the safety of our kids, because we really true value and love our kids, and we want to make sure that they come back to school in the same condition, if not better than how they left us. And we needed to figure out a way to try to help navigate and orchestrate that for them.
I guess, how has the obstacles impacted them within the school that you've seen?
Beforehand, it gave them a little sense of nervousness, like as the clocks tick forward or closer to dismissal. And the same thing sometimes for coming to school in the morning, like the things that they would have to step over, walk through, deal with, see, and experience. I mean, that changes their kind of like mental comfort for how they will be able to be open for instruction that day. If I just stepped over or walked through, or I had to dodge anybody's physical, verbal, or other altercation on the way to school, then I'm a little less likely to be open to understand or talk about like fractions or multiplication. So it stays on their mind like for an extensive period of time, and it does shift and make them go into some little panic on like, how do I do this? What do I do? And it definitely takes their mind off of like their instruction, what they're supposed to be doing, because they're really extra heightened in terms of like their safety and what that's going to look like in a couple of hours or minutes.
That's real. It's like you said, fractions seem a little more insignificant whenever you're dealing with your security and safety in general. I know I remember meeting you first before the pandemic and just learning how active you and your school was in these conversations around the city regarding student safety. I've known that you've been in a lot of these events and conversations and have spearheaded some initiatives at your school. Could you just highlight some of those things that you're doing or have done in the past just to ensure student safety?
We started out with doing a lot of having a lot of conversations with the students to figure out what they wanted to see, not only from us but their own peers, some of our parents, the community at large. We've held some town hall meetings, invited folks from the neighborhood to come in just so they could understand what our kids were seeing, what we would like for the community to join in and help us do, and which is just to be on a lookout from those town hall meetings, from making flyers and having the students go out with their teachers to help inform and educate folks in their immediate neighboring area. Folks know that there's that walking school bus of ours where our walkers, we release them in a particular form and fashion. We know the directions that they're traveling off into. We know who's falling off and turning down which streets as we go along. So it becomes like a system of we're all walking this direction. We know that you five are getting ready to turn down this street and go right. We know that you're directly going back home, and our parents know that that we're always staying on like the main street. So even parents that are driving know to look out for them, and they know that, even when we turn around to walk back, we're also walking back, making sure that we see that they're no longer on the street and they have made it to their home or their next destination. And, knowing exactly which siblings, what relatives take what buses, and having as many folks there to travel and wait for them at those bus stops so that we can know for fact that not only did you make it to that destination, but you made it to your bus stop and we put you on the bus. It's worked for us. Just being that systematic with it, folks in the neighborhood see us on a regular basis with the kids. They know like who we are and what to look for. They speak to the kids on a regular basis, ask them how their day is going and everything else. So that builds up like a sense of comfort, I would say, even for the students to know, like, see the same community members come out to greet us and they're looking out. They have our best interest and everything at heart. And it's really good and gives them another level of comfort. Even if I'm walking behind them and they're ahead of me, they know like people are still watching, and it still gives them a good level of, people are watching, so I'm good to continue and walk. And I know the path that I'm supposed to be walking on. Everybody does. It gives them a little bit more peace. They have more of a definitive expectation of where to go, what to do, who to look for, especially if something does happen, which makes, their dismissal and their arrival a little more peaceful. We can't necessarily shield them from everything we want to, but giving them that kind of like umbrella of their neighbors and community looking out, and knowing that folks from the school are walking with them as well, so that they can again have a little more peace and be kids.
Is it just staff members walking with students to their bus stops and along the way home, or do y'all like recruit volunteers? Anybody else?
So we do, off of our website, offer the opportunity for folks, whether from Ward 8 or not, if they had the time to come over to the school and to say like they wanted to help. I know that you've done that with a lot of our students, and they still talk about you. They still know you. They respect the relationship, which is what we ultimately want the kids to get in that space of knowing, trusting, and recognizing folks who are there for them.
I remember a couple of those times walking out and students from other schools would like hop in our conversations. You're reminding kids want to learn, they want to build positive relationships. And it's just how do we give them access to those positive relationships more? So.
Right. And that still happens even today. There's a conversation that's being had with my students and I when they're waiting for the bus. Other folks join in from students from other schools that see me at the same place with them at the same time. If something is getting a little out of pocket, it becomes more and more okay for me to say, hey, can we lower that a little bit? Can we calm that down a little bit? Can we check our language because we have this 5-year-old right here who doesn't need to hear all of that? There's no beef, there's no issue, there's no smoke, because I'm the same face that you see every day. So then it's one of those like, oh, my bad, or excuse me, or they'll even say, hey, calm down, the little kids are over here, which I respect them to start to realize, like, we can do better and be better role models ourselves for the younger folks that are around here and watching. But the consistency allows you to be able to move and maneuver that way without someone misinterpreting your intentions.
As key stakeholders continue to make policies related to student safety, though, how important is it for them to include student, family, and community voices in their decision making?
It's important, and pretty major. So, I mean, if nothing else, the parents and the communities need to know what's going on. There's nothing like a shock value of like, where'd all this come from? Who are these people? What's going on? I don't even know what the purpose of them are. When the community members know, like, hey, this is what you're going to start seeing, this is why, and get some feedback on how it's going, so that everybody is on the same page of like expectation and understanding what is happening, why it's happening, who it's happening for. And if they see anything that they want to highlight or raise, good, bad, or indifferent, these are the avenues that you can go through to raise those scenarios or highlights for folks. And for the students, it's important. Like we talk to our students, especially the middle school students we have, with some good detail to understand, like, this is why we are doing it. And when we get wind of things, we communicate with them so that they can have their own heightened awareness, not so that they are anxious, but so that they are informed, so that we want to see you here tomorrow. And we want to see you tomorrow in the same, if not better condition that we are looking at you right now. And in order to do that, these are the things that we have to do. It's like a fire drill in a school building. You got to go through a conversation and a practice to build it in, so that when and if there is a real fire, I don't have to panic. I know what to do. I know where to go. I know who to look for. Like the safe spots that are around the community, I know where those are. So if something happens, I know that I can immediately go to the MLK Deli, for example. I know I can go in there. I know that they're going to be okay. They are expecting me if there's a situation, and they know how to help me. So I can go to another neighboring school and I can figure that out. I can go back to school if I need to, if I'm not there with them. So they know a lot of things that are happening. If they hear gunshots and they know that I'm with them, we know exactly that I'm going to give you some real clear and clean and cut directions. That's what we're following. And we're doing that all together immediately for everybody's ultimate safety. There are a few times where we've had to bob and weave or duck and dive. And when it's over, it's also like a good debrief of like, hey, you notice how, we did that pretty quickly, and that pretty much kept us as safe as possible over everybody else. And we want to just keep talking about it, keep massaging, the memory muscle and everything. So again, we all make it back home and get to come back together day in, day out.
You brought up safe spots, for instance. I know we talked about it in previous recordings, but if you don't mind, could you describe what a safe spot is for everybody?
A safe spot is just like the terminology. It's a spot in the community or neighborhood that has agreed, and they're open to making sure that any student who comes in and who needs safety can get that. So if you feel like someone's following you, if you feel like that someone's trying to intimidate, circumstances seem a little sketchy, and you're not necessarily sure about a group of people that are coming and going, you can go into this establishment, you can let them know like, hey, I don't feel necessarily comfortable. Can I use your phone? Can I wait here until somebody comes to pick me up? Can you watch me get on the bus and make sure that everything's like, okay? Folks that are expecting to give me an extra layer of safety if I'm ever in a circumstance where I don't feel comfortable about my surroundings and or the folks that are in them. And without question and judgment, I will add.
That's good because I know once again it goes back to the trust because I know talking with a lot of students they don't trust all places to go in for assistance. There's no one easy solution to address student safety. It's just knowing that there's community members standing out there waiting for you, school staff willing to walk with students on their path, organizations around the neighborhood that are willing to keep an eye out if a student is feeling vulnerable, and then students also being aware and being prepared for what hopefully things don't happen, but if they do occur, they know how to handle that. But I guess, since student safety in general is a complicated issue to tackle, if you had a wish list you could make of potential solutions around the city, what would be on your wish list to address student safety in DC?
I really do wish that a lot more schools would join into making sure that folks got to their bus stops and on their bus stops outside of school hours. It doesn't take forever. It does take a couple of minutes, but we can all do this. So it's a really good relationship that you build with students along the way. When I'm walking with students myself, like we're not just talking about the terrible things that happen at the end of the day. One of my students is a new big brother, so it's just like, talk to me about that. Have you been waking up at 3 a.m.? You've been helping with these feedings. Have you changed a diaper yet? Like, how did that go? What did you think? You get to tap into them on a different level. They get to tap into you on a different level, and you can actually build upon those relationships inside the building to maximize what needs to happen social, emotionally, academically. I really wish a lot more folks would join in on that. I know that a lot more community based organizations have signed up to help and support. I really wish that we weren't doing a complete phase out of our school resource officers. They started this work with me, and they built really good relationships with the families and the students. And I would hate to see that completely go away. And DC Connect program is, really starting to expand. My wish is for its continued expansion, and that we can still build it so that those who need to travel a further distance can still benefit from the services if needed. I would say last, I wish that we could really build a better system of how we all collectively operate in terms of social emotional learning inside the buildings. When schools do that well, there isn't as much spill out of, I call it like shenanigans that we see and have to deal with and clean up after school hours, because the students have learned in true form and fashion how, if something's a small little deal, I don't have to trip over it. I can just let it go and move on. It would be great if we would all consistently work on that just as much, if not more, than how we try to tackle some of the academics, because that social emotional learning piece is just as important, so that we can really truly start seeing a change in how our kids resolve and handle conflict resolution, so that everybody's dismissal or morning arrival is good and peaceful, and we can get back to focusing on really building and making sure our students are ready to compete in this world, in this nation, on a high level with anybody else that wants to contend with them.
Emotional response to situations is key, but I feel like you said, we put it on the back burner. Like, we see plenty of adults who struggle with that to this day. So I swear I could talk with you for hours regarding this stuff, Principal White. I appreciate you taking this time today to talk with us. But thank you so much for the work that you're leading, that your team is working and leading on in the city. We're encouraged by what you are doing. We definitely hope and can't wait to talk with you soon.
Thank you. My pleasure. Shout outs to the Student Advocate's Office. You guys always keep grinding and working. And there isn't any battle that you guys don't try to step up to help and support and lead for the city. I appreciate that.
Appreciate that. Appreciate you. Have a good remainder of your day.
Thank you. You too.